Yo, what's going on? I appreciate everybody for tuning in to tonight's live. We're going to hop back on it and talk a little bit about the finance games. Shout out to the over 16,000 supporters of the channel. I'm really appreciative for your support. When you watch videos, like them, dislike them, leave a comment, get snippy in the comment. It's all good. It's all love. I definitely appreciate it. Now, this video is going to be interesting, and there was a lot of situations in the entertainment industry that related to finance that are going on currently. I could have talked about ESPN firing all of the sports side, the sports writers and broadcasters, or I could have went and talked about the judge finding out that Soldier Boy don't got no bread, which is not shocking. I think I did a video something about that a while ago, but I thought this video was interesting because it was about uh, former child star, current actress Giovonnie Samuels. Before we dive in, hey, I'm Marcus. This is the channel of the Debt Free Dad, where we're talking finances, financial takes, topics, attorney reactions, current events, all of that good stuff, and everything in between. So I wanted to talk about Giovonnie Samuels. If y'all don't know, she started out on Nickelodeon, Disney, The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. Hey, your boy got kids, so my kids used to watch some of them sappy shows. All that on Nickelodeon with Keenan and Kel back in the day. She an 80s baby, so she around DFD's age range. But I thought that her reaction on TikTok to her financial situation in light of the Screen Actors Guilds, writers, and actors strike that's going on was actually interesting. But before we dive into that, I got to give a little background on what is going on with the strike. What is the issue? Now, there are a few issues that are going on with the strike. Long story short, I'm going to give y'all the fast version so we can get through this thing tonight. Long story short, the actors are looking for a few things. They're looking for higher residuals, they're looking for higher pay, and they're looking for disclosure from streaming companies to figure out how they are making residual income. And the last thing has to do with AI. It's getting wild in Hollywood with AI. I saw an article, and one of the things that they're arguing over is Hollywood wants to use AI to scan. Like if DFD was going to be an extra in the movie, they would scan my likeness and image, pay me one time, and indefinitely use my likeness and image as a background actor in a movie just indefinitely. So those are some of the things that they're discussing, that they're beefing over. The AI thing is, I mean, hey, I'm sure AI could write a mean ass Marvel script if you ask it to. So I definitely understand the context of why they don't want to get bumped out writers, actors, by AI coming in doing the job for them. I definitely understand that aspect. But this is more about the residuals. Okay, here's how the residuals work. Residual is essentially you getting paid for old work. Like me, when DFD go to work, I go to court, I fight the good fight, I do something good. I don't get paid 2 years later for that same case that I handled, that same client that I handled in court. That's just not how it works. But residual income is, yo, you did some work. That work is continuing to make income. So years later, as that work that you put out still making income, you get a little kickback from it. So you get this perpetual income so long as that work product is still making money. So that's kind of the breakdown of what residual income is. Now, here is the problem. Back in the day, everybody watched network television. If you was like me, your parents had a big ass floor model TV with a coat hanger stuck in the back with a pair of pliers because we broke the knob and lost it somewhere to change the channel. And it went from like 2 to 20. Then it went A, B, C, D, E. You had to adjust it and watch American Gladiators. But back in the day when a lot of stuff was through network TV, advertisers were paying a large amount of money for ads because most people were making their income from ads. That's how media, NBC, Fox, they were making their money from ads. Fast forward, what happened? Here comes cable. Cable gets in the game. Now actors had a chance to negotiate, because back in the day they weren't getting residuals. They just got paid a one-time fee up front. That was it. If people watched your stuff 10 years later and it made $1 billion, you would get nothing. Well, of course they weren't having that. So they went on strike. They negotiated residuals. Fast forward, we go from the floor model TVs to cable TV. Residual checks are relatively looking good. Even for people who weren't the main actors, they were able to make wages that were allowing them to be able to live so that they weren't living paycheck to paycheck. And for a lot of actors, residual income from their old shows is really their main way to make passive income. Now we entered into the world of streaming, and this is where it gets a little crazy. Okay. Y'all may not know this. How many streaming platforms do you think actually turned a profit since their inception? How many of y'all think? One, two, five. What do y'all think? Paramount Plus, BET Plus ain't making no damn, ain't making no money. But only two streaming platforms have essentially turned to profit: Hulu and Netflix. Every other streaming platform is losing money. So the issue with the residuals for the actors and actresses, as I read it, as I take it in, is that they have no breakdown as to how many streams impact or what's the monetary kickback for their residuals. If someone watches this, I'm in this movie, they watch it a million times. How does that break down from a dollar amount to me getting residuals? And there's a couple of things. One, streaming platforms really aren't fans of residuals. They like, yo, you know what? We're going to pay you a one-time fee up front to use this sitcom, this movie for 3 years, 4 years, whatever that term is. And that's kind of what your payout is. Well, people beef, people complain. They started to pay some residuals, but the actors have no idea, the actresses, they have no idea of how that calculation is done. And Netflix isn't releasing their numbers as to the viewership. Now, I know y'all thinking, well, why don't Netflix just releases the numbers so people can know how many people are watching Stranger Things, and we can know establish a dollar amount of residuals that should go back? Well, it's not that easy, okay? From the actor standpoint, I see why they want the numbers of viewership numbers released, because they need to figure out a way how we can negotiate residuals so we aren't broke as hell. But from Netflix side, Netflix, they're not going to disclose the amount of viewership. None of the streaming platforms are. If I were them, I wouldn't, because they don't want people to know how many people aren't watching their platforms. Like I said, only two of the streaming platforms have actually turned a profit. Every other platform out there, aside from Hulu and Netflix, are effectively in the red. So let's think about this from a overall context. In 2020, everybody was in the crib, nobody was going nowhere. We see Netflix, Disney Plus. Everybody who could create a streaming app created a streaming app. And you know what happened? We was all sitting in the house. We weren't doing nothing. We was watching TV shows like hell. We was watching. I mean, I had like my streaming bill was probably higher than my cable bill was during that time in 2020, 2021, because it was just nothing to do. So I was just watching everything. I'm watching old cartoons on Disney Plus, Chippendale Rescue Rangers from when I was a kid. So there was an inflation of the stock because a lot of people flooded to get all of these streaming platforms. Well, what happened once 2022 rolled around? You know what? People was going on cruises, on vacations. People weren't jumping on the streaming platforms like that. People looked at the platforms like, damn, y'all keep raising my bill every 6 months. And I got more streaming platforms than I actually need. I'm paying over $100 a month. So people start canceling it. When people start canceling all of these streaming services, of course, it kind of deflated down and came back down to where it should be. So now that we know only two streaming platforms actually made a profit, the next thing we got to think about is, if I ran a streaming platform, why would I want to release my numbers knowing that I'm not hitting subscription targets, knowing that people aren't watching as much shows or the variety of shows that I think? According to Netflix data, the main viewership on Netflix really accounts for like 5 or 10 shows. Let's just keep it a buck. Who out there got stars? If y'all got stars, the only reason y'all probably got stars is to watch some show that 50 Cent made. So, like, if you got stars, 80% of the stuff you watch on stars is probably something that was created by Curtis Jackson. But that's the reason why the streaming platforms don't want to release the numbers. Part of it is we don't want to release the numbers because, we it can go and impact and implicate how we should pay the actors. But the other part is if these streaming platforms release these numbers and the market finds out that people aren't watching this crap like everyone think they are, that stock price is going to go down. So if I was the CEO of any streaming platform, DFD streaming media, there's no way I would release my numbers because I would want to protect my stock. So that's just kind of the the nexus of what's going on, how the residuals are going there. Now I'm gonna play two short videos. It's probably like 4 or 5 minutes. The first one is from a actor. I like him too. Paige Kennedy. He plays in. I just watched a movie, The Meg, Shark movie, Shark Week. The Meg 2 coming back out. But one is a video from Paige Kennedy who's opening up residual checks, and I want y'all to just take a look. And his residual checks actually were decent. I seen some residual checks videos where it was like 5 cent, 2 cent, 3 cent, 4 cent. But his residual check video wasn't that bad. But we're gonna take a look at his residual checks that he got from shows that were on, hell, probably 20 years ago, back when DFD was a young buck. And we're also going to take a look at Giovonnie Samuels, the former Disney Nickelodeon star. She played in Freedom Writers. She played in, I don't know, some cheerleader show with Solange Knowles. But she been active in the game for a minute. But we're going to take a look at these two videos because we got to discuss and rap about it. All right, let's go ahead and pull this up.
It's like a mystery pack. This one, I guess, is a better one. This is from a show called Justified. Justified was the show I did. Here's a residual check for it's 100. But that's respectable. That's some gas money, I guess. Now, here is another residual $39.
Now, I don't know if y'all watched The Shield, but The Shield is a classic. That was one of my favorite shows. $35. That show was probably on at least 20 years ago, 21, 22 years ago.
$39. This is so back. All of the episodes. Yeah, all of the episodes.
All right. So before, because I don't. Some people like to play the victim game and all that stuff. But before we even go to this sister, because that's gonna be the video I really break down. I understand both sides of it, but maybe I'm taking this and interpreting this the wrong way because this is the profession that you choose. I would say probably 90% of people in America do not get residual income for work that they have done. You work, you get paid, you work again, you get paid. I think that's probably how the vast majority of the population is. That's point number one. Point number two is you elected to choose this profession. You elected to choose this profession. And one of the things we see that are very common, it happens a lot in the NFL. When times are good, nobody wants to negotiate anything. But when times are bad, that's when everyone wants to negotiate. It makes zero sense. It's the complete opposite of what should be done. But we see this all the time in the NFL with contracts. Players like, oh, we need more money. When all the money from the ad revenue is coming in, nobody is willing to negotiate. But once it hit the fan, everybody like, we got to go back to the table and talk. And now you're negotiating really from a place of weakness because a lot of the actors are living paycheck to paycheck. Like, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. When it comes to negotiations like this, a lot of times they go wait and see. Like, hey, how long can y'all hold out? How long can you go without work? How long can y'all not play in these games and not get paid? Y'all making millions, but y'all still living paycheck to paycheck. So that's one of the things that I think is interesting. And I'm gonna just be honest. Maybe I understand their plight, but I'm probably not really sympathetic to it because I'm like, yo, bro, most people don't get residuals for work that they did, and you choose your profession. If you choose your profession, one where you have to work continuously, move your feet to get paid, you know what you should do? You need to adjust your damn finances as such. You know what? I'm a background dancer for New Edition. Well, let me stack up my bread while New Edition hot. Because when they fall off, ain't nobody paying to see this shit. So you have to adjust your finances when times are good so you aren't in over your head. You aren't on the struggle bus trying to be in the victim Olympics, blaming everybody else, asking for something that no one else is getting. Because, I mean, Hollywood, hey, I get it. Everybody's not The Rock or Kevin Hart, but it's tough out here for everybody. Everybody is losing their job. Inflation is kicking everybody's ass. It's tough out here for everybody. So me, being the person I am, it's hard for me to find a lot of sympathy for just actors in Hollywood. Like I just can't because everybody. Welcome to America. You're dealing with what everyone else in America is dealing with, and it's called hey, it's called is a real out there. These streets ain't no joke. All right, so let's take a look at this second video where we're gonna check out Giovonnie Samuels. Now it's about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Normally I like to play it through, but every time I just play it through, I miss a few talking points. So I'm gonna pause it a few times because y'all gotta let me know in the comments. Is is her financial situation the result of her own inability to manage her finances? Okay, that's option number one. Or is it option two? It's because of the economy and what's going on with the actors. I, y'all probably know where I'm standing. It could be a little bit of both. I think it's definitely more one than the other, but let's go ahead and check it out. All right, we're gonna get you out of here. Get you out of here. All right, pause. I gotta pause it right there. She said we not. She said actors aren't balling. The leads get the big checks. The supporting cast like her, they don't get the big checks. And hey, I get it, but that's why they're striking. Again, I I understand y'all situation. When times get hard, it sucks. It's one of the worst feelings ever. But I can't understand and rationalize what the expectation is. Like, do we really expect like the guy sitting on the bench for the Los Angeles Lakers to make as much as LeBron James make? Like, no. Do we really expect the the guy at the grocery stores whose job is it to go out there and get the carts? That's an important ass job too, because you go up there and there's no carts. I don't know about y'all, I'll be mad as hell. But do we expect the guy whose job is to go out there and get the carts to make as much money as the manager of the store who's in charge of setting the schedule, who's in charge of approving the leave, payroll, and all of those things? I think that's just unrealistic, and it just don't make sense to me. That's my opinion. Let's finish playing the video. All right, we're going. We got to pause it right there. I get that, we just came through COVID, we just came through a pandemic. I understand that, it was a unique situation. We've been in a rough situation. Like people in my age bracket, we seen like two economic crises. We seen like a couple of wars. we seen, we seen 9/11. We had some terrible things going on with, but I definitely understand that, coming out of COVID, then to go right into a strike as we're getting through the pandemic could be problematic. But, hey, I'm not saying I understand it. All I'm saying is this sister is an 80s baby. I think she was born in like 84, 85, something like that. She's been in this game long enough to know to stash some stuff away for a rainy day. Two of the problems that she named on there weren't those were you problems. Like, when somebody tell you something, you be like, oh, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. Two of the problems were a you problem. One of them, and we talk about on this channel, one of them was family stealing money. This is something that we see and hear about all the time. Not all the times, but I would say probably in the 90% range, 90% of the time, if a family member is actually stealing money from another family member and they don't have a cognitive disability, they're not a vulnerable adult like 99 years old, and they not don't have the wherewithal. Most times, somebody like her, young, if family members are finessing you out of money, it's because you gave them access to the money. I seriously doubt that a family member, and it could have happened, it could happen, but it's not the norm. Most times we see it all the time. We hear celebrities say it all the time. Oh, people ask for stuff and I loan, I invest in these dumbass business ideas, flippable headphones, and all of this stuff. Like, yo, your family member running game on you is a you problem, unless they did some credit card fraud or something like that. And if that's the case, there's a remedy for that. Go to law enforcement to get that matter rectified. But your family stealing from you is a you problem. That's something that you can control the majority of the times. Doing work and not getting paid for it, like I don't even understand how that happens. I can't speak from a position of super experience, right? But my daughter dances for two local professional sports teams. She's 12. She high speed. She dances for two local professional sports teams. She does her acting thing, and is no way in hell that, well, maybe somebody else kid may have an acting gig that they won't get paid for, but you know who kid that won't happen to? Me, because I'm meticulous about it. So I can't understand how an adult actor, someone who's been in the game for that long, is still getting caught up in jobs that they aren't getting paid for or aren't getting compensation for. Now I know the way that payouts work can different. I know you probably have some shady ass producers out there and streaming companies out there, but you got to have enough wherewithal and a common sense to try to avoid those positions. I mean, word of mouth get out there. If somebody's doing bad business, everybody's going to talk about that person. And if you decide to get into bed with those people, you need to make sure that at a minimum you're getting enough money up front. Like, and I think the best way to explain it is when I'll have let's say I had a video that was promoted by somebody, and like, okay, this is a paid promotion in this video for X, Y, and Z. Off the cuff, I'd never like, no, you know what? Hey, the minute I post this video, or the minute y'all gonna pay me this much up front and this much on the back end. And I normally ask for anywhere between 60 to 70% up front, because I know if I get 60 to 70% up front, if something comes along where my money is slowed up on the back end, is not going to be anything that ties me up to where I would be on the struggle bus, because 60 or 70% of what I can make is of what I make from any venture is probably what I'm going to spend anyway. That remaining 40% would probably be going for taxes and the savings or something like that. But those two things that she mentioned, family finessing you and putting in work for places that aren't paying you, those sound like a problem that she should be able to rectify as an adult who's been in the game since the 90s. You've been acting, you've been in this game since the 90s.
Because kids don't want to give me a dime. I'm asking for health insurance. I got responsibilities and things that I gotta take care of. Back to school coming. I gotta put my son in private school. Private? Well, you ain't got to put him in public school. I can't put him in public school.
Yes, you can.
I did. Depending on him. Because the parents were jealous because I was on TV. And they told their kids to pick on my kids. I had to.
All right, now I don't know. I think that's the most ridiculous thing on this entire video that I'm gonna call cap on. Like I don't know. Like I don't know. Do parents? I guess there's some parents out there who be like, "Yo, when you go to school, pick on this particular person because this kid is that." But a few things, okay. I guess number one is, I mean, I grew up around the same time that you were on TV, and maybe I was just different because I was outside all the damn time. But I literally would see you and not know who the hell you are in the first place. That's point number one. I don't think that you're so recognizable where people will just be like, "Oh man, that's such and such from this show. Hey son, when you go to school, take your kids lunch money." Like I don't think that's the norm. Okay, that's point number one. Point number two is I don't know what private school she is enrolling her son in, but people in private kids in private school are probably worse. If you think your kid was getting picked on in public school or you move them to private school, Lord have mercy, they really gonna pick on them in private school. Private school kids, man, they may be a little bit more affluent. If your kid ain't got it or your kid coming a little not up to par, like I don't know. I just don't think you should I don't know. Maybe this is just me. I'm not going to run my kids to a private school, paying for a private school. If the reason you're putting your kid in private school is because they're being picked on, that's a dumbass reason to put your kid in private school. Like that, it's like what DFD. What is your position on private school? Like all right, my son, at first I was like, oh man, I'm gonna put my son in the Montessori school, and I went and viewed it, and I was like, what? You let the kids do what they want to do because everybody learn at their own pace. I was like, man, my son to run y'all over. But I had him in a private school that I had him in a public school that was amazing. I had him in a private school that was trash. I had him in a charter school that was great. But if the reason you're putting your kid in private school, the reason you put your kid in private school and pay for private school, it should be with what the kids get to develop them with regard to their educational goals and develop them as a child into a young man or woman. I'm not putting my damn kid in. Oh man, people over there, they whipping your ass and taking your lunch money, son. Well, come on, let me go in private school. Like, no, you can talk to teachers, you can talk to parents. If you anything like me, hey, I fight another kid's parent quick. Like, there's a lot of things you can do before you have to run the private school and pay money that you clearly don't have because your kid is getting picked on. I just think that that's a terrible ass reason to put your kid in private school. It's the victim Olympics, man. Like when stuff get hard, people always like to go to the victim. And like, yo, sometimes there are things that are out of our control. Sometimes there are social constructs, economic constructs that actually may be designed to not allow us to get ahead. But nobody want to hear your sob story. You pick that profession, you need to be able to adjust. Your kid doesn't. Private school is not a necessity. Trust me, I learned that. Private school is something that's not a necessity. An education is an education is an education. If your child gonna do well in private school, your child probably could do well in public school. It's not like high learning or something like that. High school, high. And if your child is getting picked on in public school, your child can get picked on in private school. I don't care. They'll be right there, and Carlton Banks could be giving them hell. So I just don't think that that's a way out just by saying, oh, I got to go to private school. You clearly can't afford the private school. The kid was getting picked on. That's why they got guidance counselors, teachers, principals. That's why you got hands. That's why you could set up conferences to talk to other people's parents. That's why you could just show up at the school and just ice grill the kids and don't say nothing, just so they know you a little crazy and you got some PSD from the war, so you might snap. All of those things could be viable options to avoid your child from continuously getting picked on. Enroll your kid in martial arts to one, help their confidence and make them feel comfortable and learn how to defend themselves. A lot of options you can do besides jumping to a private school that you clearly have an issue with. And damn, did I pause it on a terrible facial expression? No, nobody know who you are. I just don't think it's that serious.
I own a home, barely own my car. I don't know what money I think I have, but I don't. I have a job. Too. So don't sit there and go, just go get a job. I got a job.
Can I get a Kleenex?
I don't make sad health insurance, but I make too much money for assistance, but not enough money to pay for whatever procedures I need. This is why I strike.
Okay, so that was it. Hey, Victim Olympics. The Victim Olympics, sometime it happens. I just I don't know, like I just maybe I'm just insensitive, like I'm not known to be the most sensitive guy. Like if you telling me some really bad news, like I'll listen. If you want advice, I'll give advice. But I'm probably not the most sensitive guy in the world. But I can't understand what all the crying is about. The one thing out of that entire uh, video that I think was probably the most important was the health insurance. Because I was like, damn, well, what type of health insurance do they have? And I was like, yeah, the health insurance is kind of jacked up because you have to make a certain amount of money to be able to qualify for the health insurance. If you don't make that amount of money, you can't qualify to get in that health insurance plan. So you kind of got to get it on your own. But hey, at the end of the day, we all been there. You know who've been in a situation where I was living paycheck to paycheck and I was struggling and I didn't make enough money to take care of what I needed to take care of. But, hey, I made more than enough money. I couldn't get any assistance. You know who? Me. I can remember when I was in, I want to say, I don't know if it was law school. Like when I first moved to start law school, you can't work if you're in law school full time. So it's like, I'm married. I got a little guy. My son was maybe like, I don't know, 1 or 2. I'm trying to juggle everything, going to school. I technically can't have a 9 to 5 job, but I got some money I stashed over here. My wife is at home with my son because we just moved there and the daycares were whack. So I'm like, and I wasn't like out there doing Uber. I just kind of worked and stashed some money away. And I was like, damn, I don't got no income. And like, I was like, maybe I could. This was literally my thought. Because after your first year, you could work. I was like, maybe I can get I said, since I don't have any income coming in, maybe I can get some assistance just to help, even if it's $200-300 to help with just the food side. Then once next year come, I can get a job and everything will work out. And they was like, nope, even though you don't have any income, you're in graduate school, so you can't apply and qualify for any of these benefits. I was like, damn, I'm a productive citizen who's been paying taxes all my life. So I can't feel any sympathy where she just doesn't make enough money, because I feel like all of the problems that she named are things that relate, absent the health insurance. That's, hey, I'm not insensitive. That is problematic. But everything else, your family taking advantage of you with money, since you was born in the 80s. Like you an 80s baby like me. You old enough to use the magic word of no. Or if you really want to get sweet, you can use the magic word of hell no. That's point number one. Point number two, doing shows and jobs that you aren't getting paid for. Come on, you've been in the game long enough. So I just can't see how that's still happening. It's not like you're a newbie in this profession. You've been around long enough to know the ins and outs, the do's and don't. Sending your kid to private school because he's getting picked on because you think people know who you are and they're telling their kid to go pick on you. That may be a thing. I don't think I've ever told my kid to like go to school and pick up somebody. Well, I take that back. I told my kid to go to school and rag and joan and crack jokes on somebody only because they came and told me that somebody was cracking jokes on them. And I was like, damn, these kids soft. When I came up, we knew how to snap and rag and tell jokes on people like at the drop of the hat. But that was because I didn't have anything growing up. So I knew how to defend myself verbally by talking and cracking on somebody. These spoiled ass kids didn't know how to do it. But nobody, it's very rare that someone would even recognize who you are, because I could walk right by you right now and wouldn't recognize it. But even if they do, your kid can get picked on anywhere. You clearly can't afford private school. You have extra jobs, and that's what you should be doing. What you are doing is what you should be doing. If your main job not working out, you know what you do? You go get another job and you make that happen. I'm gonna do a video on this. I'm gonna put it out later this week, but this Friday is my last Friday on a job that I had for 3 years. And I knew that this job was going to come to an end. Do y'all see me on here? I don't know. Y'all may see, maybe 4 months from now, I may be on his snot bubbles and shit. And it's hard, but no, like, nah, that's just not what I'm going to do. I knew it was coming. I knew the times weren't always going to be great. So I planned, I budgeted, I made sure I reduced my risk. And I'm not sitting on my ass waiting for something to happen. You know what I'm gonna do? This Friday is my last day. I'm gonna do what I always do. I'm gonna take a couple of weeks off to annoy people around the house and fix up some things. And I'm gonna be starting a new gig at the end of the month. And it is what it is. That's just how it happens. That's how it's worked. Even if I couldn't start a new job as an attorney, I would be doing something, because I'm not gonna sit around and just not do nothing. Even if I have the ability to sit around and not do nothing, I'm not going to do it. But yo, I think that most of the things that she's going through were things that she could clean up, things that she can fix. I just wanted to read this comment again because I thought it was hilarious. Shout out to Izzy. And the Academy Award goes to the woman who apparently can't afford a box of Kleenex. Just nasty. You know she can't afford a box of Kleenex, man. Come on now. We know she can afford the Kleenex because she's struggling to try to do everything else. But yo, actors, if you're an actor out there, you're on strike. If you're anybody out there, you lost your job, you're dealing with a tough financial situation. Nobody give a damn about your snot bubbles and your strife. No one cares about you running in the victim Olympics trying to come in first. You got to get up off your ass, do something, do what you need to do to sustain things, to keep everything above float. You just want to do enough to be able to, if not sustain, be able to try to balance things out. You may not necessarily make enough to pay everything, but you can juggle some things around. It's like swimming. You're not drowning as long as you're keeping your head above water. You're not floating along comfortably, but you aren't drowning as long as you keep your head above water. You keep your head above water. You do what you could do. I don't care if it's Uber. They actually got a thing I saw. I was like, man, I should do this. It's called Sticker. And I was like, this is a simple way people can make money. They pay you to put a magnetic sign on your car and just drive around. You drive around doing the normal stuff that you do, picking up the kids from school, going to karaoke, going to whatever. And you just slap this magnetic stick on your car for a company, a brand, and they pay you to do that. There are so many ways out here that you can make money, and it may involve you having to have 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs. But at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do because nobody give a damn about your snot bubbles. Like, well, that being said, somebody might care a little bit more, ladies. They might be a little bit more sympathetic or empathetic for your snot bubbles. But fellas, don't nobody give a damn about your snot bubbles. If I see you on social media talking about you broke, I'm gonna just be like, this dude tripping. Nobody give a damn, fellas. We don't care about your snot bubbles. I don't care about her snot bubbles, but I really don't care about your snot bubbles, fellas. So you got to do what you got to do. Nobody's coming to save you. The only person who's going to take care of you is you. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hey, tomorrow is going to be an interesting live because it's the weirdest fraud case that I ever seen in my life. Y'all know that's what I do. I do this law thing. I'm in the white collar, the criminal section. I'm involved in this, but I never in my life heard of recycling fraud. We're going to talk about some people who look like they might catch a charge due to recycling fraud tomorrow. So y'all make sure y'all tune in. If you enjoyed this video, check out the video that's going to pop up on the screen. Take care. Peace.